Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
Mm-hmm. And you just ate a sandwich and didn't bring one for me.
And now I'm going to overdose on gummy vitamins live on the air.
Investigators say they found the body dead in
just
some neon yellow
in his colon. We found a 2-foot long rectangle of gummy.
Ice-T breaks in. They call it Sunny D. It's the kids taking vitamin D until they pass out.
And then the other cop's like, shut up.
I didn't even do the meme right. I'm too old.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get what I'm talking
but
about.
But it would be great if like, the other cops just anytime it's like, yeah, they call it gummy riding. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Nobody calls it that, asshole.
Well, no, some fucking 60-year-old white dude who wrote this episode called it that.
I like to picture, because I don't watch the show, but I've seen it. I think it's impossible to live in America and own a TV and not catch bits and pieces of
Everybody knows Law and Order, and everybody knows the best part of Law and Order is Ice-T trying to describe the crime.
Right. But I like to think, as somebody who doesn't watch it, so in my head I've kind of retconned. The thing is, all the other cops tell him that that's slang just to watch him make an ass out of himself when he's talking to, like, perpetrators.
And what's funny is, like, Law and Order is, it's got, like, a CSI downward spiral where, like, all these crimes are getting more and more absurd with every episode.
Yeah, because you run out of
Because the show should have ended in 92. You know, like, it's ridiculous. But he has to act like all of these are common things on the streets. You know, like,
right.
You know, so yeah, gummy riding. It's when you put gummy vitamins up your butt and you OD because you can't throw it up. Like, it's like, I thought that was alcohol. It's like, nah, man.
Vitamins. What we're saying, Law and Order, is hire us as writers. I will have so much fun with Ice-T.
I'll make a ton of shit that could go wrong. There's a lot of ways to kill a man.
You would be very, very good at it. Between your, like, actual knowledge of, like, murders and crimes and just you. Like, which sounds like I'm insulting you, but I'm not meaning to.
They call it the cardiac toilet bomb. It's when your heart can't take it when you're number 2.
Because Taco Bell gave you an extra taco by accident. It's an epidemic.
It's when somebody spikes your drink and you have such bad diarrhea you rocket through the roof.
It's happening all the time.
Neck can't hold up to it.
Well, here's the other great thing about Law and Order is not only should it, like, do they run out of crimes and it should end, instead what they do is they keep inventing new specialized departments for spinoffs.
I love it.
So now it's like, yeah, Law and Order restroom victims unit or something like that.
Or what if it's like not absurd shit, it's just mundane shit, like that, like the little horrors we live with every day. It's like, yeah, he died from the heat. Guys down south call it climate change. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, damn, man, these fucking streets are tough, man.
The Law and Order political hot takes unit. Every episode they say something like that and then just do that, like, The Office thing where they just look at the camera, like, break the fourth wall.
It's called this thing gun violence. Doesn't happen much up here in New York or wherever the fuck that takes place.
I think they have them all over. I don't know, because like I said, there's 1,000 spinoffs.
But they all meet. Like, they all hang out. They all say, like, hey, can you believe the shit Ice-T said? You gotta get down here and listen to this guy.
Maybe it's I would assume it's New York. New York or like Chicago or LA. Those are the only 3 cities that police are allowed to operate in if you're running a TV show. Like, I don't know. I guess there's a couple like Texas ones, but
Texas Law and Order. That's just
No. Just text us like.
I was gonna say those are short episodes where a dude gets shot in like the first 5 minutes, and then it boom, justice.
Yeah. It looks like we have a justified shooting. It's like, but it was a 12-year-old. And they're like, yes.
Yeah. And he'll never pull that shit off again. So, when we're not talking about a show neither of us have watched in 20 years.
Ever. Yeah.
Like, so we do this show sometimes, and on the show, we tell each other stories. And I'm done. That's the intro.
And the outro.
And the outro.
Good night.
And ta-ta for now.
Yeah. So I guess it's my turn this week. And I've got a kind of a different...
It's your turn to be a hero.
I need a hero.
Save this show, Steve.
You're counting on the wrong guy.
Steve, save my show.
So 2 weeks in a row, I'm doing an actual topic and not a creepypasta.
Gross.
So
why are you trying to show off?
Well, and you didn't do one. Like, we might end up with a month in a row of no creepypasta, but that's really
putting a lot of pressure on me. Fuck you. Don't do that.
I couldn't remember. We might already. This might make a month. I don't think so.
It's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You put it all on me, fucko.
Next week, you'll just hear Ben drunk in the background, like, I couldn't do it.
You know what? I wouldn't feel as bad about it if you hadn't made me feel like a failure.
So,
I guess felt as bad about failing if you hadn't made me feel like a failure.
Tune in next week to see if Ben can live up to. But don't worry. Once I'm done with this, you'll be like, "Well, Steve fucked that up anyway," and who cares?
That's the thing. When I bring a topic, it usually sucks. So,
yeah, no promises here either. Inner youth, Leonarda Cianciulli. I meant to look up how to pronounce that beforehand, but I got busy at work. So she's just going to be Leonarda.
Yeah, it's a female Ninja Turtle.
Uh-huh. I loved that. Yeah, they just named her Leonardo, and they're like, fuck, it's a girl. Put an A on the
Leonardra. Wasn't there a female Ninja Turtle?
Probably eventually. I don't know.
know.
Although it might be one of those, what was that, like, shark show? There was
Street Sharks?
Yeah, where they somebody
Street Sharks was rad. They had rollerblades.
Yeah, but somebody like fucking 20 years ago, like, went into like early message boards and just kind of retconned a female Street Shark. And it just persisted for so long that there's like now people that insist that it was a real character and it wasn't, but it's that Mandela effect, which is pretty cool. That is not what this is. This is a person, not a turtle. Anyway, in her youth, she attempted suicide twice, but survived and eventually met a Regency clerk, whatever the fuck that is, by the name of Raphael Pansard. So we got 2 Ninja Turtles already, and I'm just one sentence into the story. She married Raphael against her parents' wishes. They had picked out another man for her. Probably
Michelangelo.
And Donatella.
Yeah.
No, sadly, I got to the end of the story, and there's no more Ninja Turtle names. I was pissed.
There is a Casey Jones.
Splinter. That'd be great, because this, if you haven't figured it out, takes place in Italy. She was born early 1900s. I didn't write down the year. But Italy, that's why these are all Italian names. But in the middle of it, if there was just like, and then she met a guy named Splinter, and went like, yes!
I met a rat named Splinter.
She doesn't. Those are the only 2 Ninja Turtles, sadly. And I figured the second that I said a Leonarda married Raphael, you'd be like, bullshit, you made this story up too.
I assume you're lying all the time now.
It's a safe assumption, in fairness. Yeah. Anyway.
You've had too many episodes where you fucking pulled the wool over my eyes.
In fairness, it's not so much me pulling the wool over your eyes. It's me taking advantage of the fact that I know you just barely pay attention when it's my turn. Anyway. Yeah, it's like, I think you're over there playing. Yeah. Parents were mad that she married like the worst Ninja Turtle. Leonardo would...
Fuck you.
I thought Donatello was your favorite.
What? No, Ralph. Raph, he's the turtle with the tood, man. He's fucking... And you know what? He is the only one of those fuckers who's true to the name teenage. Because he fucking hates everything. And that's what it's all about. He
seems to be the only one that kind of takes like the Ninja Turtle like crime fighting thing seriously too.
Yeah, in that last animated movie they made, which was actually really good. Like Leonardo fucking fucks off to go train in a jungle or some shit.
Yeah, that's the thing with Leonardo is like he thinks he's like
he's doing it to be a better leader and shit. And Raph is like, I didn't need you to be a better leader. I needed you to help me fight crime. And now you're gone. So I'm going to like put on this fucking suit of motorcycle armor and just be rad and go solo. And it was cool as shit. And then he whoops Leonardo's ass. That's why I like Raph.
Yeah, well, especially if he can do it with his... He's got the worst fucking weapons. That's the thing. Like he's like, I'm going to get you with Fisher Price forks.
Yeah, and he'll stab you 90 times with them before you even know what the fuck happened. Raph is the best. Quote this if you're down.
Yeah, I think we've had this debate, probably not on the show, but I know we have on Twitter. But Michelangelo's the best because his like thing with him like being party and pizza, that's clearly just a metaphor. He's a cokehead.
Michelangelo's an idiot. He's an absolute like college frat kid, you know.
Yeah, he's just over there like shooting up, and
it's all fun right now in the stories. But one day he's going to be 30, and people are going to be like, "The party's over."
Yeah, that's the thing. All the turtles will move on and get wives, and he'll be like, "Where the
every
fuck
other fucking turtle develops, and he just stays a perpetual idiot."
Yeah, that's why he's the best. I identify with that. But okay. So this woman marries this guy, and her parents were pissed. Leonardo would claim for years that her mother had placed an actual curse on her.
Yeah,
but together, well, I think everybody's mother places a curse on them a little bit. I mean, fuck,
they're spiteful.
They gave birth to us. That in and of itself is kind of a curse.
Yeah,
we're all here thanks to them. Thank you very much. But together, Leonardo and Raphael had 17 children. My God.
That's like, not... You can't blame your mother for that shit.
No, well, that's not the curse part. The curse part is, out of those 17 children, I kind of worded that. I cheated on the wording. 3 of them died to miscarriage, so she didn't really have them.
Well, that sounds bad. Like, because it's like, you know, even if you didn't, like, carry them delivery.
I consider it as having, a child. And
you had to deal with 17 pregnancies.
Right.
Whether, you know, they went to, you know, term or not it's still an endeavor. That sucks.
I think it becomes extra fair to consider that as losing them because she lost 3 to miscarriage and another 10 died in their youth. So out of 17 kids, 13 didn't make it.
After 5, you think curse. I think after 10, you go back to bad parenting. I think. I think at that point it's like, wow, yeah. I just watched that happen.
And there can be a lot of...
By kid 9, you're wrapping them in bubble wrap. You know, it's...
Well, we'll get to that. A lot of things at play. Like I said, early 1900s, so mortality for children was a lot higher, but it wasn't that high. You know, that's still unusual to lose that many of them. But also, you kind of wonder, like, I have like two or three different 2 sets of friends, and then somebody else that we just know. It was kind of a friend of a friend that have had all sorts of dealt with all sorts of bad stuff because like both the father and mother had like super rare genetic things that even if you both have to have it, and even then, like it's still only like a 10% chance of something happening. But we understand that now because we know genetics. So back then, you know, you kind of have to wonder if there was something like that going on, where there was like some kind of genetic thing where they just weren't, you know, they were passing something on to their kids, and it was, you know, whatever. But to Leonarda, it was the fucking curse that her mother placed on her. And while, losing 13 children certainly affected her, she wasn't just like, whatever, it happens. She was pretty fucking depressed about it. And this is somebody that already had tried to commit suicide twice. It didn't surprise her because at some point in her early life, she had visited a fortune teller who had told her that she would eventually marry and have children, but that all her children would die. So that's a cool,
that's not
thing
a fair
to have.
prediction, though. Everyone dies.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's my take on fortune tellers too. She probably worded it that way, and it's it's 100% true.
That wouldn't stop me from having kids because I'd be like, yeah, no shit. But I'll probably die by the time they're 15 because I eat McDonald's.
Right. Doesn't matter. And eventually, if I say your kid's going to die, it sounds very menacing, but I could mean your kid's going to die at the age 120 after an extremely happy life. Everybody's going to die, right? But she also visited a gypsy about the same time. So if you haven't picked up between this curse she believes in, she used to visit fortune tellers and gypsies. She's a very superstitious, believes in mysticism, and takes it all very seriously. But a gypsy that she had visited who had read her palms, gave her a different prophecy that we'll get to a little bit later. Hopefully I can remember it because as I'm reading this, I realize I didn't put it back down in my notes later. But, so she was getting all sorts of prophecies beforehand, but then she married this guy, had 17 kids, and 14 of them died.
Sick.
Like I said, she was very superstitious and believed in mysticism, and she was very sure that she had been cursed by her mom. Having already been warned that all of her children would die, she became very protective of the 4 children that were still alive.
The only way to break a curse is fist fight your mom. Sorry, I wish there was another way.
Right. Unfortunately, her mom was world-famous champion Olympic boxer Donatella.
King Hippo.
King Hippo, yes. Nobody realized it's in the manual, but if you don't, that's how you would get your game backstory back in the day. But King Hippo is actually an Italian woman. The graphic fidelity in the NES days wasn't good enough. I guess that was Super Nintendo, wasn't it? Whatever.
No, it was. Punch-Out was NES. That was where King Hippo was.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if he has Punch-Out or Super, but...
No, they have a bear hugger in Super Punch-Out. He's a big Canadian guy.
That was her father. Bear hugger and King Hippo.
No, please. Bear hugger is my father.
So she became very protective of the 4 that survived. And then she found out that her oldest son, who... she apparently freely told everybody was her favorite child, which I thought was the thing you're not supposed to do as a parent. But she's like, yeah, I love the 4 of my children that are still alive, but this one the most. This one particularly.
You know what? I'd probably do that too. Just some Game of Thrones Littlefinger politicking with my children, where it's I like you the best, which is why you're gonna do this thing for me.
It sounds like the military thing where you single a person out, but not because you actually like them, but to get them beaten with pillowcases full of soap bars in their sleep.
I go up to every kid like the drill sergeant in Forrest Gump. God damn it, you're a goddamn genius. Yeah,
that'd be a fun way to parent if you had that many kids as a drill sergeant, but the most complimentary drill sergeant, but you still scream it at them like you're pissed off.
Yeah, I feel like that is what you have to do with a large number of kids. You can take the patient approach to parenting if you're 1 or 2, but as that number gets up, you kind of have to yell at them it's like a video game that you only control with a microphone. It's no, go over here now. It's me too. All of you fucking go over there.
God damn it. Betty Joe, I'm so fucking proud of you right now.
I can't put all this great shit on the refrigerator.
Anyway, she eventually found out that her oldest son, who she liked the best, had enlisted in the Italian army just as World War II was starting to break out. So she wasn't real feeling real great about that when she's already convinced, lost 13 kids and convinced that she's been foretold to lose the rest.
Yeah.
And it's probably a pretty safe bet to be like, if my kid's going away to World War II, there's a good chance they're not coming home. Although, of course,
Also,
at the time, they wouldn't have known how bad it was going to be yet.
I guess it depends. You said it was just breaking out, and they were Italian. So, I guess
they would have definitely been at the forefront of all the shit.
They would have been at the forefront of the shit, but I'm saying, this was before America got into it and stuff, so, the global math wasn't really being done. This was like a European push sort of thing, so maybe you thought you could win it.
Well, and wasn't Italy they were an Axis?
Yeah, they were. That's what I mean. Is because the whole. Now we're just doing a World War II show, but the whole fucking the whole idea of that conflict changed a lot when America and Japan kind of started fighting each other.
Yeah, it's kind of like that thing where you're at a sporting event, usually a Little League one. I guess you're not at it. It's the one because I wouldn't be. We're watching it on YouTube, and that's where one of the dads starts screaming at the umpire, and then one of them pushes the other one, and so the coach gets involved, and before you know it, there's people driving by on the street that stop to get in on the fight because everybody's like, yeah, I can get some of my punching out. Let's fucking go.
What's great about the first two World Wars, and I never thought I would start a sentence like that, is they didn't start as World Wars.
Right.
They kind of spread into it. If we have when we have World War III, that's probably going to be the first time where we all know, okay, everybody's in this shit. Pretty much.
Maybe. But I know there's a lot of people feeling that way when the Ukraine-Russia stuff first started, and I still kind of I'm not doomsday, but you still feel like at any given moment, all of a sudden that could just be yep, we went from this horrible thing going on way over here to everybody's being nuked.
But I mean, but people called that. I certainly called that with the way the Ukraine-Russian thing played out is if humanity survives such a conflict, I would look back on that invasion as that's just, it has to start somewhere, but everybody knew when that started that everybody was going to be involved eventually.
Yeah.
The one thing that World War III has that others don't is unanimous nuclear capability. So
well, and the ability for everybody to attack everybody from everywhere,
and not just attack, wipe out.
Right. I think Americans. I think a lot of us haven't come to. I mean, a lot of us have, but I think there's still a large portion of us that, and I think it explains how many Americans seem to be gung ho war-toting, fuck yeah, America. The last major, and not even just, I'm not saying World War II is the last, but even you look at other big ones like Vietnam and Korea and that stuff, all of those we got into, and even Iraq, and we could sit at our homes and be relatively safe here.
Yeah.
World War III, that's not going to be true. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, or they're overconfident in their backwoods militia stashes, thinking that I can hold my own against, China. It's good fucking luck.
Well, I mean, there's definitely always those idiots who will try to defend themselves. But I think I watched a video last night on YouTube where this guy was he touched on this a little bit, where what's his face, Orson Welles did a radio play of the War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And it's and
everybody
freaked out. And, it's exaggerated how many people freaked out, but people freaked out. They, there were people who thought they just tuned into a news story that, aliens were fucking destroying the planet in a half an hour.
It's amazing how many people quickly believed it without any outside confirmation, too.
Well, I mean, I also consider, probably a lot of people, they're only...
Yeah.
Their only entertainment and information was, the newspaper and the radio,
And at that, there was like 1 or 2 channels. So it wasn't like you could go flipping through all the channels and be like, are they all talking about this? So,
But the video talks about how reactions like that address a deep-seated fear in people, and especially as our conflicts have become more detached. Like, you know, it really kind of the American idea of war started with like Vietnam, the modern idea of war, where it's this really brutal conflict, but it's happening so far away that you can't really depict it as real, you know?
Right.
Like it isn't in our face. So it's this really bizarre life we live where we're all relatively safe in our homes, but there's this genuine idea of danger globally that we're all living with, you know?
Sure. And to be clear too, we're talking on a societal level, because there's definitely individuals that have family members serving, that lose family members serving,
of course,
that they're dealing with the reality of it. But yeah, as a whole, as a culture.
But it's like, it's this, and it only got worse as like nuclear capability only got scarier. And it's just this thing of like, and I went through it hard with like the Ukraine Russian invasion. I got really fucking depressed when that started, because I was already depressed thinking about nuclear war.
Well, that's the thing, is that it hit about the worst possible time too, when we were all like a million other things that you're already depressed about. They're like, oh, by the way, we might get wiped out in our sleep tonight.
Yeah, but I didn't need help thinking about nuclear war. I was already scared of it, and now it felt like a real possibility. But it's just this really bizarre tension over our head all the time that we get up, we go to work, we try to live normal lives. Most of us are peaceful people, and there's still this thing that is constantly looming that could kill us all indiscriminately, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary thought.
The way to get out of that mindset is to realize that, yeah, that would suck, except for then I wouldn't have to reply to that one email that I don't want to reply to. So it's kind of a wash.
Or you could quit. You know, like we need to find middle grounds to our problems. Anyway, that was a tangent. Sorry.
So she's already superstitious and kind of crazy on that front, and worried about her kids. And
Boy
then
goes to war.
Her favorite son says, "Hey, Ma, I'm going to war."
And be like, "I disown you."
So Leonarda did what anybody should probably do, and she turned to her friends.
She figured that.
Yeah, I'm going to shield you, son. What about the other three? I don't like them as much. They will also shield you.
That'd be a great movie. Like a mom,
the helicopter parent that goes to war.
Yeah, like a mom just like, fuck this, I'm protecting my baby.
But they don't go through boot camp and like do all that, and they just literally stand in front of them, like with their arms outstretched, like, I'm shielding you. Anyway. So she turns to her friends for help. She figured if she could devise a way to help her friends and neighbors with their problems, it just might help lift the family curse and protect her children. So the first neighbor that she worked with was a friend named Faustina Setti. Faustina was described as a lifelong spinster. Fast Eddie, yeah. She helped Faustina get the first sex change operation in Italy and open a used car lot. I know World War II's going on, folks, but I got crazy deals.
Deals here.
We don't have any stock because it's all been taken by the government to use for tanks.
Once these tanks are gone, they're gone.
Faustina was described as a lifelong spinster, but apparently she was tired of being alone, and so she turned to Leonarda for help finding a husband. And for her part, Leonarda was able to find a husband for Faustina, a man in Palo, Italy, wherever the fuck that is. And she instructed Faustina to make preparations to go see him immediately. But being the superstitious mystic that she was, that's presumably how she it's one of those, she's also into it, like, I'll divine your future and this and that, I'll find this guy. She instructed Faustina to not tell anybody of these plans, because that might, ruin it. She also suggested that before leaving, she should prepare letters to her friends and family, letting them know that she had arrived in Palo and that everything was fine. I don't know why you would do that ahead of time. It's like
this all sounds like a setup for a lot of stories you've done where she kills.
Maybe. In return, Faustina paid Leonarda 3,000 lire, which is the equivalent of $634,000 today.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, I'm wrong. 3,000. Oh, look at this story. Blah, 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 blah. No, sorry. 3,000 lire is 6,000. Yeah, I went the wrong way with my zero. $6,340. So a little bit more understandable than, almost
that costs more
over
than
$500,000.
Truck, so that's still
right. That's still a hell
up.
of a lot of money. Francisca Savoy was another friend that Leonardo was able to help out in similar fashion. So, surely the karma needle must be moving in the right direction.
Not if you're getting paid.
Right, that's what's weird.
This is what the fuck, dude? You did.
She's like, my son's in danger. I'm gonna open a self-help life coach agency,
which is fine. Hey, everybody needs to cope. Find your scam and work it, but you're not getting out of that curse if you actually think you're cursed.
My guess was that she's trying to raise a bunch of money to go pay
to bribe the devil.
Right, I don't know. But similar thing with this Francesca, except it wasn't a husband. She helped her find she located a job for her at a girls' school in Piacenza, Italy. Same deal. She advised her to tell no one of her plans ahead of time, and she advised her that she should go ahead and pre-write the letters to her friends and family, telling her where she went and that she's doing okay. For this, Leonarda received, this was the one that was the equivalent of, this is $63,000. So not 630. I don't know where I got 2 extra fucking zeros on the last one. But she upped her price by 10% or tenfold. So it's just the last person paid me 6,000. I found you a job. So I think that earns me 63,000, which also doesn't make fucking sense, because if you need a job, probably just hold on to the $63,000 and don't work. It's it basically sounds like she's well, pay me college tuition without going to college and I'll give you the job. They're just skipping the education step by getting you in debt right away. I don't know. None of this makes any fucking sense to me, but it's World War II breakout Italy, so I guess everybody's just losing their fucking minds. The last friend that Leonardo helped out was a woman named Virginia Cassiopo. Now, Virginia was an ex-opera singer and a very successful one. And for her, Leonardo was able to find and secure her a job working for a famous impresario, which I had to look up what the fuck that was. I was thinking kind of some kind of emperor, government official. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's a concert/opera/play organizer. Basically somebody that runs a giant, one of the big old school opera houses.
A Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. So it'd be a Hollywood production lot, studio head equivalent. So prestigious job, especially for somebody that was already in entertainment. She was very happy to get this job, and it was in Florence, Italy, which is gorgeous. Or at least it is now. I don't know. It might have been being bombed back then. I'm not sure. Same instructions, tell no one, write letters, blah, blah, blah. Francisca was not hard off. She was well-to-do in the first place, and finding her such a prestigious job in such a prestigious city, she paid Leonarda 50,000 lire, which is a little over $1 million fucking dollars in today's money, and gave her some assorted jewels. So she basically opened her own side job as this temp agency life coach, and in her first 3 clients made something like $1.5 million fucking dollars. So at that point, I think you just quit caring about your kids and you just go have fun with your money.
I'm going to be rich. I'm going to make new children out of money.
Yeah, right. I'll just buy children.
Yeah, I'm going to make little sculptures out of gold and be like, you're my favorite.
Fuck you, Mom. Your curse can't keep up with my money. Buying a baby, buying a baby, buying a baby. Take that one and that one. Not that one. He's ugly.
Buy a baby workshop.
So by now, Leonardo was definitely living in the fat, but literally The thing is, the money that she made from helping these women wasn't actually her plan to break the curse. The actual plan began as soon as the first woman, Faustina Seti, stopped by her house to wish her well before departing for her newly found husband. To celebrate, Leonarda gave Faustina a glass of wine, which, of course, was drugged. And when Faustina passed out, she killed her with a fucking axe, then dragged the body into a nearby closet where she broke it down into pieces and collected the blood in a large basin. Mysticism is starting to really kick in.
Well, I was kind of joking when I said.
Not really. It's very hard to make that twist not see coming when you tell people don't tell anybody where you're going and make sure it's secret, and also write these letters ahead of time for some reason.
You mean they were never heard from again, and you got all their stuff? How weird.
Weird, yeah. So, yeah, I tried, but
you must be a damn good mystic.
But the best part is kind of coming up. So, she killed her, and she broke her body down and collected the blood. The body parts she dissolved in caustic soda, which she had initially purchased to make soap. So some fucking Breaking Bad shit back in 1940s Italy. Once the parts dissolved into buckets of, as she would eventually describe them, dark-colored goo. So,
Wikipedia, I have it pulled up here. Wikipedia has her official statement on it, if you want me to read it.
I've got some of it later, so hold off for now, and then if I don't cover that part, we'll circle back. So once they dissolved into dark-colored goo, she dumped them in the septic pit. The blood, though, she had collected that for a reason. She let it coagulate and then dried it in the oven before grinding it into a powder and then mixing it with like flour and sugar and chocolate and shit and baking it into
delicious cake.
Yeah, they call them cakes. They're more like scones or biscuits because they're fucking weird in Europe.
Well, it's a person, so
well,
people cakes.
True too. And this is where
from the creator of Limey Peppermint Bastards.
And if you've ever been curious, like I always have, and you've heard the English people call them meat pies, this is where that originated from. It's people. No. But she did bake them into fucking cakes that she served to her neighbors, her friends, and her family, including her son that she was trying to protect, and herself. So she's just like, these are delicious cakes made out of a person. Which is the exact same thing she did to the second person. And really almost the same thing that she did to the third person, but it got even fucking better. Because the third woman, like I said, had been a rich, successful opera singer. Which if you've ever pictured your cliche, rich, successful opera singer, she was kind of a plump woman. She was well-to-do there.
Plus-sized, yeah.
Plus-sized woman with fair, creamy skin. So when her body was melted down, Leonarda discovered that the supple, fatty skin allowed for her to add some cologne and create some, in her words, most acceptable bars of creamy soap. So she actually fucking made soap out of her, which she also gave to friends and acquaintances as gifts. And they were presumably like, wow, this soap is awesome. I wonder what happened to Virginia. She would love this stuff. She also claimed that the cakes she made with this blood were noticeably sweeter than the other two. They were the best cakes. So if you're looking to kill people and butcher them and turn them into soap and cake, go for the fatties, like myself.
For the record, I put on a few pounds, but I probably smell like shit. Read my Twitter. You don't want anything to do with me. Like if you're gonna eat me or you're gonna clean yourself with me, like.
And I started a new workout routine. So if you want to kill me and do this to me, you got to do it either in the next 3 or 4 weeks until I slim down a little bit, or wait another month until I give up and fatten right back up. Because that's what happens for me. But I'm probably I'm getting too old though. All my fat's spoiled. It's starting to rot.
I don't. Well, yeah, and there's if you're an opera singer, there's some life to your veins, and it's like I'm 30, but I move around like I'm 80. You know, I don't have that vigor that you need.
Right.
Bad
Yeah, we're both past our prime.
Target.
Yeah. You want your cakes to taste good, go for somebody young and supple.
If you want your cakes to taste good, just fucking buy a cake. I don't... You have all this money.
You may have picked up on the fact that we've got a very good description of what she did and a description of how she said her cakes and soap turned out, which means it didn't remain a secret.
Turns out she didn't know you couldn't do that.
Well, it wasn't really a master crime. Like we said, we've talked about before in the past, you know, like police were like, I think the kids that couldn't even get into grade school, they were that dumb, and so they became detectives. Like investigatory
people cakes.
Ice-T is the one that solved this. God damn! I wish I would have thought of that earlier. You're brilliant for circling around on that.
You find a good-looking girl who can sing, you make soap out of her.
My point is, sir, we've covered a lot of extremely obvious crimes that they fucking got away with because people were either incompetent or lazy or usually both. This was not one of those cases. It was so fucking clear that something was wrong that it didn't take too long. Like when Virginia, like a well-known wealthy person, just like ups and vanishes, family starts to ask some questions. A sister-in-law was like, this is kind of weird, and the last place we all saw her go was Leonarda's house. So she called the cops and was like, yeah, please go check Leonarda's house. And when they did, she probably still could have got away with it, but they were like, hey, yeah, we got a report that Virginia went missing, and she was last seen at your house. You probably don't know anything about that, right? And Leonarda was basically like, oh, yeah, I fucking killed her and made soap out of her, and you're eating her right now. How's she taste? Like, she just was like, yeah, I did it, and this is what I did.
It was a curse.
And that's the only way crimes ever fucking got solved back then. And they probably still were like, are you sure? Like, I guess. I think we have to charge her now. Fuck. Now it's going to have to go to
the paperwork, you asshole.
I'm going to have to buy a suit because the judge won't let me wear it. Like, this fucking sucks. Are you sure there's no way we can let you off the hook? She freely admitted to the murders, so much so that during her trial at one point, the prosecution was laying out what she did. And Leonardo was like, fuck you, that's not what I did. This is what I did. And corrected them. I believe it was like on the process of making soap from their corpse. She's like, no. It doesn't go like that. It goes like this. So it wasn't a very difficult court case either. She was sentenced to 3 years in a criminal asylum and then 30 years in prison. Because at first it's like 3 years in an asylum is all you get for murdering people and then feeding them to other people. Cool.
That's World War II. We're busy.
I still feel that way because it was really a total of 33 years, which still seems pretty fucking lenient for murdering people, taking their money, and feeding them to everybody else.
Yeah, but she was older, so she would have died. Right?
Kind of. She did die in prison of cerebral epilepsy, which is basically an aneurysm. But that was in 1970 at the age of 77, meaning she was only like 3 years away from fucking serving out her sentence. Like, she was that close to them having to be like, well, I guess you're free to go. Like...
Says here she was 76 when she died, so I mean...
mine said 77. So yeah, I mean, she still would have been really fucking old had she... But just the fact that she almost outlived a sentence for what she did is pretty mind-blowing to me.
I mean, but, that's one of those sentences where it's like, yeah, the damage you did was horrific, but you're not gonna, like, live well after
there was,
that point.
There was the factor that she was clearly mentally ill. Like, she, between her past and it seemed like nobody was really all that surprised either. Yeah. You're like, oh, well, yeah. Crazy old Leonarda.
According to the Wikipedia thing I'm reading, is like, she didn't confess until they started to pinned some of the crimes on Giuseppe, her son. So once he got in the crosshairs, that's when she just spilled.
That makes a little more sense, but she, like I said, she still was correcting them at trial.
Yeah, she was proud of what she did.
It showed that she never showed any remorse, even like in prison.
Yeah.
And that makes sense too, because between, I don't want to write this off as, it's a mental illness played a part. The bigger part is she truly, honestly thought what she was doing was helping, like, lift a curse, which certainly doesn't make it right, but that's why she never, she wasn't necessarily like, I'll murder you for looking at me wrong. Like, in her head, she was justified in what she was doing, opposed to the only other difference where it's like you just don't care. It's wrong, and you're like, I want to. So she wasn't necessarily doing it for sport, but it was fucked up. I don't get it's like, I'm going to lift this curse, but in order to do so, like, I could almost even see, like, I have to make a human sacrifice is really what it was, and feed it to Giuseppe, because that's like...
You're a product of, your environment, so if you're raised by a crazy woman who thinks she can curse you, you're probably crazy enough to think that you have to do crazy shit to get rid of the curse.
Yeah, well, and that's another part of it, though, is we don't know if, like, her mother actually did curse her, or she just, like, the mom might have just said, you're wasting your life, and she'd be like, oh, that's a prophecy, you put a curse on me, because she was pretty, like, I don't know.
I don't think that totally happens in a vacuum, though.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, clearly she is a product of something, like, you don't just...
Yeah.
Whatever.
So it's here that she saw a palm reader who told her at some point after she saw the fortune teller, she saw a palm reader who told her, in your right hand I see a prison, in your left a criminal asylum.
Yeah, that was the second prophecy that I had left out at the time when I hit that part of my notes, because that I thought was a little too nail on the head that we were going to serial killer immediately. But then I forgot to circle back to it. But yeah, that was the second major prophecy. And I assume she got lots of the,
credit to that palm reader, she earned her money that day.
Right. But then you get into the whole debate. It's like, did she foresee it, or did she steer fate?
Doesn't matter. You either, if you guessed it, good guess.
She put it on her fucking resume when people were like, oh yeah, well, how do I know? It's like, I read the poem of Leonarda and said she was going to spend her life in jail. And they were like, fuck, you were so right.
I would have like a picture of me hung up with the serial killer in my office. Remember that time I was right?
Yeah, with all the newspaper articles about the trial right next to it. I thought I had put the full quote from her trial, but I didn't. So if you've got it pulled up and want to, it's a little moot at this point anyway. But she really like outlines. She seemed to delight in her like Martha Stewart treating of the corpses.
It only has one thing from her trial, but it talks about how she corrected the account. I don't know if it has much more. At her trial in Reggio Emilia last week, poetess Leonarda gripped the witness stand rail with oddly delicate hands and calmly set the prosecutor right on certain details. Her deep-set dark eyes gleamed with a wild inner pride as she concluded, I gave the copper ladle, which I used to skim the fat off the kettles, to my country, which was so badly in need of metal during the last days of the war.
That's right. That was the quote from the trial that I had come across, is that she was like, I loved that ladle. I used it to melt down 3 people, but I'm so patriotic that I gave it up for the war. So the next person I kill will be stirred with a wooden spoon. Like, well, I don't know what she was trying to prove there, but... You
know how fucking much fun I had killing people with that ladle?
It meant a lot to me. And now it's killing allies over in France.
And I just hope that ladle thinks of me well. It's over there fighting.
What I was also pissed about is none of the stories about her really, and when I say none, I mean the 3 that I bothered to look up, because that's about as much research as I'll do.
That's all Wikipedia had.
I actually, my sources when I cite them, I use the Murderpedia. I know you're familiar with that.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, you're on the front page every other week. But
man of interest.
A lot of that information on Murderpedia was either directly taken from Wikipedia or vice versa, because it
usually is
copied. Yeah, and then there was a little bit more. There was a couple other like entries too, but none of them talked about what happened to her 4 kids, like after she went to jail.
Well, they ate people cake. And
what would have been like the only way the story could have been more fun for me is had they like sentenced her to jail, load her up in a police like wagon, and then it accidentally backed over all 4 of her children on the way to jail. And it's like, womp, womp.
Or if they all choked to death on the people cake. That would have been funny.
The people cake, yeah. They got, like, fucking food poisoning from them or something because...
Yeah, turns out you can't
Although
eat
it sounds like she properly
world.
Prepared it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think... I think she basically, it was blood pudding, which is a real thing, except she used people blood instead of animal blood.
Honestly, it doesn't happen often on this show. We talk a lot about fucked up people doing gross shit, and this actually makes me feel sick thinking about it. Like,
it's
people fucking pudding. Who wants that?
Well, and it's one thing is they'd be, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do it, make people burgers, like people hot dog, make something good.
Season it,
like,
you fuck.
Right.
It's just simple people, simply cooked with ingredients and love.
But the line about, like, that the last woman, because she was fat, like, it was even sweeter, like, literally, like, tasted sweeter.
Yeah.
Which I have my doubts on, because that's really not how that works. But
the Hannibal Lecter palate.
Well, it makes me think of that Treehouse of Horror episode of The Simpsons, where the school's like running out of money for school food, and then they realize that they can just like kill the children and eat them, and so that's like the whole thing. Like they kill the German exchange student Uter and turn him into like bratwurst, of course. Nelson's like man with sloppy joes or something, but there's always references to how like you can taste their different like character traits. So it kind of reminded me of that as like I was raised by my parents and Simpsons. Like those were the 3 things that formed me into this awful human being that I am today. So everything is like a tie back to a Simpsons episode, but that's what I couldn't help but think about.
It's probably fair. Simpsons they've been around forever, so it's a frame of reference. But it sucks now
because when I'm talking to young people and I'm like, oh man, Simpsons is so formative to me. Well, they think about modern Simpsons, which fucking sucks. Yeah. Like, just kill it with fire. And I hate being like that. For years, it's like, it's not hurting anybody. It's not good, but let it stick around. It is so bad.
No, it's terrible now. It should have ended with the movie.
It really should have ended before that, but that would have been a good time for them to be like, well, yeah.
Like,
but I mean,
that would have been the perfect send-off.
The show had run its course long before that still.
Yeah.
The movie worked. It wasn't, classic Simpsons, but it was way better than what we had been getting for years. And then it's like, oh, let's go back to, and I could do a whole dissertation on what's wrong with the Simpsons, but everybody else already has, and they're smarter than me. So
that doesn't stop us from doing this show every week.
This show, that's true.
Every fucking topic's been covered by somebody better at it than us.
I don't think this one has. Nobody talks about historical serial killers.
There's no fucking true crime podcasts out there. They're all made up by me.
Yeah, what about that? That's what when we hit to episode 200 and say, fuck this show, I want to start the world's first false crime podcast.
Fake crime podcast.
Yeah. There's so many fucking true crime podcasts. I'm sure there's a bunch of false crime podcasts too.
Yeah.
But, anyway, I just did that thing where it's been too long of a day and like my face, like sweat dripped oils into my eye and I can't see. So I think I'm done. I think I'm good.
No, you're just melting.
It could be too. I'm old and I'm falling apart, like literally just deteriorating.
It's just you're a puddle up against a microphone right now. So yeah, and it's still over 100 degrees here. So I'm ready to be done. Thanks for listening. Maybe it'll be cooler next week and we won't leave in such a huff. Mad at you, resentful, about this show we do voluntarily. See you next week.
Jerks.
Fuckers.